All the way back at that original reveal event for the Nintendo Switch, I was extremely excited to hear that Suda51 would be bringing the next installment in the No More Heroes universe to Nintendo's new system. If you haven't played these games, if you haven't played a Grasshopper title in general before, I think they're great, but yeah, they're out there, man. No More Heroes, Lollipop Chainsaw, a title I personally consider highly underrated, Shadows of the Damned. If you like the gameplay of titles like Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space, and you haven't played Shadows of the Damned, I don't know, it sucks to be you, I guess. When you play a Suda title, you're always guaranteed to be in for a unique adventure, that's for sure. But yeah, Suda was on board with the Switch, big deal for me. Then we got the teaser trailer for the game. It closed out a Nintendo Direct. Again, looked amazing. Now I'm even more hyped to play this game. But then we started to learn more about it. You know, it would be a smaller game, actually. It would consist of Travis being sucked into these 7 different video game worlds. Sounded like they'd sort of all be their own arcade-type game. I wasn't turned off by what I was hearing, but it certainly wasn't doing much to make me more excited. We saw some gameplay bits here and there, looked okay, but again, I had come down a long way from where I was during that initial announcement. Then the game came out, and I played it myself. Let me start with the gameplay. At its core, this is an action game, and yeah, a pretty simple one in terms of the mechanics. You have a light attack that you can mash, where your character will just swing their weapon horizontally, and it can be performed while running. This is key for mowing down clumps of weaker enemies. And you have heavy attacks that are obviously much slower and deal more damage. You can dodge, and beyond that, you also level up your characters and unlock skills. You have 4 skill slots, and they range from like an AoE stun, a sticky grenade. My personal favorite, where you basically just force grab a guy and can throw him across the room and he'll damage any other enemies they hit. And of course, don't forget you have to keep your weapon charged up. As fans of the series will be happy to know, it's the same as always. You gotta shake it. The core gameplay, more so the mechanics at your disposal, aren't all that deep, honestly. But it feels really good. When you hit guys and they go flying and shatter with this RGB color effect, it's so satisfying. I've yet to get bored of it in the slightest, which is a big deal because, yeah, it's a bulk of what you're doing in the game, just running from room to room, hitting things with your beam katana. But the game regularly introduces new enemies, ones that shoot projectiles, explode, or ones that even buff other enemies. So it keeps putting you in situations that are varied enough, in my opinion. Like at times, you know, they'll fill an area with just a bunch of projectile enemies and it almost feels like you're playing a bullet hell shooter for a bit. And beyond that, each of these game worlds you get sucked into offers some unique gameplay elements to also break up just, you know, raw smashing things. Like there's one where you have to drag race on motorcycles that I think may be a little bit inspired by Tron. One has like an asteroids type game in it that you have to play through. Again, none of these things are super in-depth on their own, but it's enough to keep things fresh and interesting throughout. You know, you're wondering, like, what are they going to throw at me next? I would note here that while yes, this game does offer cooperative play, you can actually play as either Travis or Badman even in single player and level them up all on their own in that. But yeah, there is a co-op mode. However, during many of these secondary mini-game moments, you typically can only play single player. They are pretty quick, but do note that player 2 will be having to pretty much sit and watch some of the time, which is annoying. Now, how about the story? What is going on here? Well, if you want to know, I hope you like visual novels. Yeah, is this game getting weird enough yet? This game system, the Death Drive Mark II, plays games that are on death balls. And as you beat each game, you not only unlock the next game, but also a story segment told in a visual novel, sort of Metal Gear Codex style, of how Travis got that death ball during his quest to collect all 7. The 7 death balls. I wonder if that's a reference to anything. And in typical Suda style, The narrative is very meta. Beyond Travis's own story even, each game world has their own, little story going on in it. And it's not just like a surface level, oh, here's the bad guy, he's bad. These are characters that are aware they're in a video game, and you'll get often depressing insight as to what that existence would be like. This is also a game where I have to comment on the collectibles because these are some of my favorite in any game. For each of the Deathball games, when you unlock them, you'll also unlock these like gaming magazine spreads for that game. Just like when you cracked open your Nintendo Power back in the day, this development team created little snippets for each game that looked like they jumped right out of a retro gaming magazine. And the one most people have been talking about, the shirts. As you progress through the game, killing enemies and all that, you collect currency and you spend it on new shirts for the characters to wear. And most of them are from other video games. Indie games, mostly, actually. So yeah, you can get a Hollow Knight shirt, a Fury shirt, a Messenger one, Galf from Golf Story. That's a okay game, I guess. It's a great reason to go back and replay your favorite Deathball games to collect all the shirts. I know they announced recently that more are coming, including even a Jet Set Radio one. You want to talk about a franchise revival I could get behind. For a straight playthrough, though, I'd say if you take your time and kind of experience everything, watch all the dialogue sequences, not blow through the visual novel stuff, watch the intro cinematics for all the games, which get pretty wild at times. I'd say you get about 8 to 10 hours out of a single playthrough. If you do want to skip that stuff, go hard for just the gameplay, it's probably more like 6 to 8 for $30 in the US. I believe the physical version is actually $40, but on the eShop the game's $30. I think the value is definitely there. But yeah, Suda games in general, they're more niche, not always for everyone. I'll say myself, I really enjoyed this game, and like I said, the building up to it, I was getting kind of worried about how this would turn out. The only things I would point out as significant-ish negatives about the game is there were some levels that seemed to have some frame rate issues. Nothing game breaking, but you'd get drop frames every now and then, and like I said, it seemed to be specific to certain stages. And also the camera. Sometimes these bigger arenas you'll fight in have enemies, shooting stuff at you off camera. They give you a little threat indicator where part of the border of the screen lights up red so you know something's coming at you from there. But a lot of stuff, it's still just super hard to dodge when you don't actually see it till almost the last second. But again, I'm a big fan of Suda's past work. For everyone else, if the gameplay you've seen here looks fun enough to you, like I said, I think there's enough going on here, but don't expect like very deep gameplay systems like you're playing, a Bayonetta or Devil May Cry type action game. But fun enough, I think, for sure. And I will say, I'm definitely pulling big time for this game to do well. They even make a reference in the story to the quote, big ol' number 3. The world needs a proper No More Heroes 3. I'd love for Nintendo to pull a Bayonetta actually here and get 1 and 2 on the Switch, and then publish the third game. I think that would be phenomenal. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Travis Strikes Again in the comments. Is this smaller title worthy of being in the No More Heroes universe? Is this your introduction to the franchise, to Suda51 games in general, perhaps? That I'd be really curious to know if you've never played any of these past Suda games before, what you thought about this experience. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Travis Strikes Again. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter, @JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends, link to both in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.